Hello and welcome to a book review. Now we are doing Don't Die July, and this came in one of the July book boxes, and I've been waiting for it because it is everywhere. A lot of people love it. Yeah. So this book, this is going to be a review of not the kindest nature. So if you are a lover of this book, because there are thousands of you out there, you might not want to sit through this, because this is my review of the Fairy Loot adult fantasy book pick for July, Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. And it's the first time I've actually got the title right. Now, it's a very pretty book. It's very pretty. This is the Fairy Loot edition. Fairy Loot do very pretty books. Very, very pretty. The spread edges are very, very pretty. The hardback, very, very pretty. The character art, very, very pretty. The book itself, however, dear me. But first things first, we're going to read through the blurb, so you might understand more where I'm coming from. This is a story about hunger. 1532, Santo Domingo de la Calzada. Might have butchered that. A young girl grows up wild and wily, and Mariah knows she can only ever be a pawn in men's games. So when an alluring stranger offers an alternative path, Mariah makes a desperate choice. I have issue with that already, because in the book, Mariah is far from making a desperate choice. That's not what she does. And so we begin. A story about love, 1827, London. A young woman lives a cloistered life on her family's estate, until a moment of forbidden intimacy sees her shipped off to London. Once there, a beautiful widow offers Charlotte her freedom, but at what cost? A story about rage, 2019, Boston. College was supposed to be a fresh start. That's why Alice moved halfway across the world. Then an out-of-character one-night stand leaves her questioning everything. Alice throws herself into the hunt for answers and revenge. This is a story about life, how it ends and how it starts again. We're going to get on to the revenge bit. As you will probably see from my demeanour, I didn't love this book. In fact, I DNF'd it at 28%, 154 pages in, to a 535 utter snooze fest. And here we go. We started off with Mariah's viewpoint. You get 3 POVs in here, you Mariah, Charlotte and Alice. You start off with Mariah, and at the beginning I found her quite borderline interesting for what she does and how she thinks, etc. Then reading further onto it, she's supposed to be a woman in 1532, except I don't know whether the author has written historical fiction before. Given what is in this, I doubt it, because Mariah is, as I said, a woman. She has grown up. She is in she's either in a village or in a town in 1532 Spain. She's not religious. First, and she has modern viewpoints on independent women. An independent woman back then was something that was shunned from society, completely looked down on, and not something you would aim to be. And even how the people talk are modern slang. So, like, what are you doing? If you're going to set something in the likes of 1532, be it either so far back, do some research, because they're not going to talk like I would right now. They're not, especially women, they're not going to vocalize their opinions because they weren't allowed any. She even goes about saying, "Oh yes, I'm a witch," in 1532 Spain, in 1532 anywhere. Seriously? No. She'd have got burned, no matter how pretty she is. Pretty privilege is definitely a thing in this, by the way. We're with her for a while, and she meets this woman, all clothed in grey, that she instantly feels like there's something about her drawing her in. And she meets her when she's like 10, and she comes across her in the woods, blatantly asks if this woman is a witch. So what, she's going to turn around and say, "Oh yes, I am, quick, burn me"? But there is something about this woman that intrigues her, and she tells Mariah to run. And Mariah does. For once, doing as she's told, because she never does as she's told. Because we'll get on. And then it switches to where Mariah is 18, and she has spied this Viscount coming into this pilgrimage, people going to their town on these religious pilgrimages. And she spies him and thinks, "I'm going to marry you. I don't want to be on this farm. She's a farm girl." And she marries a Viscount with no pushback from his family in 1532. And she marries him, goes off with him, and shock horror, the marriage is not one made in heaven. She's actually expected to perform wifely duties. Oh no, who could have thought? In 1532. But she gets pretty sick of it, and she spies this lady in grey again. And she ends up going to visit her in a shop, and she offers Mariah a way out. And Mariah leaps at the chance. And then we get Alice's point of view. Alice is by far the character that I hated the most, because she is whiny, she is panicky, she's filled to the brim with anxiety, so she can barely function. But it's not written in a way that you would feel sorry for her or want to help her overcome whatever's going on inside her head. You feel like just, it's so annoying. She is so annoying. She's a dish rag. And reading through her was a slog, and I hate it. And the fact that further on, she becomes the main POV all the way to the end, I'm glad I DNF'd it. And then we do have Charlotte's point of view as well. However, I only did get one chapter with her before I DNF'd it, and it wasn't anything to write home about. She's just a regular, boring person. And yeah, so we're going to get into some mini spoiler here, because I can't talk about why I DNF'd it without spoiling this bit. They're vampires. They get turned into vampires. And Mariah gets turned by this lady in grey. She then turns Charlotte, and I think Charlotte turns Alice, or Mariah turns Alice, I think. I didn't get that far to work out which one did what. And you'd think that a 535-page book of lesbian vampires out for revenge and vengeance would be something that would be at least a little bit compelling, instead of what we got. Because how can she turn lesbian vampires out for vengeance, out for revenge, into toxic, whiny, pick-me girls, pick-me teenagers? It's like, you know, you see them TikToks, and they're skits, but that is exactly how these act, and they're not skits. That is who they are. And really? it was the revenge that I wanted, the revenge that kept me going. And this book, I DNF'd it. It's about as vengeful as a bowl of potpourri. There's nothing revenge. There's no revenge. They're whiny because they didn't get to do what they wanted. They got turned into a vampire, and oh shucks, they'd rather be studying. Says who? Being turned into a vampire doesn't improve their personality one little bit. They're still whiny, still toxic, still goddamn tedious to read. It's a very pretty book. It's very pretty. The cover is pretty. The hardback is pretty. The character art is pretty. But the actual substance, there's nothing underneath. It's pretty with no substance, which is the biggest character trait of all our three characters. They're pretty, but there's no substance underneath. Mariah is completely toxic, Alice is whiny and annoying, and Charlotte is just dull. This had so much potential, and it's like, it's never realised. It just doesn't go anywhere. The plot moves along at a snail's pace. In fact, sometimes it just ends up going backwards. It moves along that slow, it's almost going backwards. This author has put out a few more books before this. I haven't read them, and after this, I'm not going to bother. This could have been 200 pages. This is 500 pages of utter fluff. Now, once I knew I was going to DNF it, I do what I do, and I go to the reviews, and a lot of them say exactly what I've been saying, exactly what I was feeling. Some of them powered through to the end, and it didn't get any better. So when I knew I was going to DNF it, not only do I go to the reviews, I go to the last 20 pages or the last chapter, and I read the last bit. It didn't get any better. I knew exactly where I was. Skipping 400 pages, it was still in exactly the same place where I'd left it. And the whole big plot thing at the end, what plot? What plot? Nothing happens. One of them comes out on top, the worst one of the lot, and just what is this? This is cotton wool in a hardback format. I've done a few things this year. One of my things is buying the pre-orders of books that everybody is talking about, because everybody hypes it up and I want to know. And that's what I did with Blood of Hercules. Didn't go very well. It's what I did with The Night and the Moth. Again, didn't go very well. It's what I did with this. It hasn't gone very well. And it's a shame, because the blurb was interesting. The blurb's the most interesting piece of writing in the entire book, and it wouldn't surprise me if somebody else had wrote the blurb instead of the author. Because I liked the blurb so much and people were hyping it up so much, I didn't know it was coming out in the Fairy Loot box. So I pre-ordered the Illumicrate version, which isn't here yet. And that is extremely pretty. But I'm not going to keep a book I've DNF'd. So not only is this one going on eBay, but when that arrives, that's one's going on there too. Because I just can't with this book. I just can't. The characters at the end have no growth, no depth. They're about as deep as a puddle. The big payoff, there isn't a big payoff. And apparently, according to threads, this author does plod along, and plot is something, how did they put it? They've said that plot is always secondary to her. She writes more character-driven stories. Where's the character in this book? There's 3 main characters. There's a lot to choose from. And you fail at every single one of them. So because it is Don't Die July, let's see what other squares I've crossed off with this one. It's got vampires, so we can cross off the We Do Not Go blah blah blah. That's the only one, but at least it's one we can cross off. But yeah, this was my review of Bury the Bones in the Midnight Soil. bury our bones in the midnight. So let's see, I always get it wrong. A DNF. An unfortunate DNF, but a DNF all the same. So if you have read this book, let me know what you thought of it down in the comment section below. If you're going to read this book, I might not have helped, but this is, again, my opinion. There are thousands of people that have read this book, love it so much that it's one of their favourite reads. For me, no. No. This is just a whole lot of nothing.